Wow, this thing's far from home. A lot of great lines on this one. Welcome everyone, my name is Mr. Franklin and this is Art 101. Special welcome goes out to the students of Garden Grove Unified School District. We're going to be taking a look at the elements and principles of design for the next few weeks. Glad to have you here. I'm excited. Are you? Let's get started. All right, let's draw some lines. What you're going to need right now is a piece of paper. Now, this doesn't have to be anything special. I'm using a piece of printer paper, but if you just have a piece of scratch paper, something you're not using, a backside of an envelope, that'll work too. We're just going to experiment using and drawing some lines right now. You can use a pencil for this. I'm going to use a marker just because you'll be able to see it better, but either way is fine. All right, let's talk about some lines. Let's go ahead and just kind of experiment. One of the basic lines you'll make is a straight line. That's a horizontal line going from left to right. You could also make a line going straight down, and that is called a vertical line. What other lines can we make here? How about a diagonal line, right? Let's see, what else? How about some wavy lines? That's interesting there. We could go on to some zigzag. Zigzag lines. What if we did little dash marks? Those are called interrupted lines. And let's see what else. How about just a free-flowing line? A lot of times we'll have lines that are more organic, we'll find in nature. Free-flowing line. Let's see, what else can you think of? How about a spiral? Almost looks like the shell of a snail. If we were to do something like this, that might resemble water. It's kind of a scalloped line there. Or if you turn it upside down, or if you do it the other way, let's see, you might be able to do something like fish scales, right? We did another row. Can you picture the scales on a fish? Maybe if you hold it that way, let's do one more row. You could do something like that. What if we combine some lines here? We did, what do we got here? If we repeat lines, then we make what's called a pattern. Repeating something over and over again creates a pattern. That's a very important part of art and something we'll be using and talking more about in later lessons. But let's see if we can take some of these lines up here and repeat them. How about do these diagonal lines side by side, or vertical lines? That's a pattern. What if we did some vertical lines and then went the opposite direction? Crisscross. Sometimes we call that hatching or cross hatching. When they cross like this, that's cross hatching. Makes an interesting pattern or design. Let's try this. Let's try the water pattern or the water line shape, and we keep doing that over and over again. Interesting. What if we use some shapes or even a dot, a simple, just a dot right there, and I repeat it over and over again? I can make a line using interrupted dots, evenly spaced, and you can see this creates a line. Sometimes if I create a simple shape, like a rectangle, and I fill that in with my marker, and I do another one here. Fill this in with my marker. Look what that creates. What do you see there? How many lines do you see? Do you see 2? I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you here. I see 3. Can you see 3 lines? 1, 2, and then in between. Do you see the white line in between? It's actually not a line, it's just space. But it creates the illusion of a line. So that's actually 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. This space right here is called negative space. And space is another important aspect of art we'll touch on later on. You'll see that art, all these elements and principles of art kind of intertwine with each other, and we end up using a lot. Today we're focusing on line, but you'll see how I'll bring up some others as we go along, and I'll kind of point those out to you as we go. What if I did another? I'm just curious now. Now I'm really curious here. What if I made a square here, and I started filling in the color, or filling in with black? What if I did this? So there you go. There is a space, and there's a shape there. Now there's no line there. How can we make this into a line? Let's repeat it. So the circle in the center is negative space. But the fact that we repeat this object over and over again creates a pattern, and that pattern creates a line, a straight line going across. So there's all kinds of things you can do to create patterns. So how about, what if we do kind of a scribbly line? Now, it looks like scribbles, but it's actually, we call that scumbling. Now, scribbles might be something like this. That's kind of a scribbly look. This kind of a look is called scumbling. And that's a line in itself. Now, when you put your pen on the paper and you keep going and you don't lift up your pen or pencil, that's called a non-interrupted line. Okay, so we're not picking our pen up. It's an uninterrupted line. It keeps going until I lift it up. Not only do we draw lines on paper, we can find them all around us. Let's go outside and take a look. Horizontal lines on the side of this building here. You got your light posts, vertical line. Check out the lines you can find in automobiles. Check out the lines on this building and the curved line on that overhang. These posts make for some interesting lines. Negative space lines in this trash can. The tile roof has some nice curved lines. Look at the rows of rocks and bricks that make up these lines. This restaurant's overhang has some wavy scalloped lines. You can find lines in advertisements. This wrought iron fence has some ornate curved lines as well as straight lines. This mural uses all types of lines. Can you find the zigzag line on this alligator? This adjustable clamp has a lot of detailed lines. Look at the positive and negative space lines created in this storm grate. The flowing lines of nature can really be seen in this tree. This piece of functional art uses all types of lines. Can you see the negative and positive space lines in this bench? The water flowing in this fountain make for some incredible vertical lines. I'm seeing more zigzags. Can you see the lines on this street vanishing at the horizon? This old truck has some interesting lines. Wow, this thing's far from home. A lot of great lines on this one. Let's head back and see if we can use some of this line inspiration to create some artwork. All right, so what we'll need for this project are the following. We have, first of all, a paper plate. We're going to be drawing on a paper plate today. I thought I would try to use something that maybe you have around the house. That way we could save our paper that you might have, our a better paper that we might have. But if you do not have a paper plate, you can just use printer paper, copy paper you get out of your printer. That will work fine. We are going to also need a pair of scissors. And we're going to need a couple markers. Now this is a thin marker, has a thin tip. You can see that. Also have a thick marker. Now you may not have both size markers. You may not even have a marker, and I'll show you what you can do if you don't. I'm also going to be using 3 color markers. I'm picking blue, yellow, green, but you can choose the colors of your choice. Okay, and that's fine. And then of course a pencil. Okay, so let me show you the project that we're going to be working on today. All right, we're going to create some line pattern. And we're going to create this circular design that we can display. And you'll notice that this design has all different types of lines. We have all the lines that we created, well, a lot of the lines we created in our sampler page that we made earlier. And you'll see on the left-hand side, we have a project done in black marker with color markers. Okay, if you have those, this is something that you can create. If you don't have markers, you can also just use a regular pencil, and we will show you some techniques. I'll talk a little bit later about some techniques of what you can do to create a monochromatic graphite design like this. Okay, so put these aside for now. What we're going to do right now is we're going to get our paper plate. And we're going to create our circle pattern. Okay, now if you have something circular, I have this roll of tape. You could use this as a pattern. You could use your pencil and you could trace around the outside of the tape to create a pattern. You could also use a cereal bowl. If you have a bowl at home up in your cupboard, or a large glass or a vase, or maybe be careful if it's glass. You don't want to drop or break anything or hurt yourself. But something that is circular that you could use as a pattern. I bet if you search around your house, you'll find something. I'm thinking also maybe oatmeal container. That's a great cylindrical thing you could use. I bet you'll find it. To think about something that's this kind of a shape that you could trace around and make a circle. Remember, if you have a piece of paper like this, you could use this. If you have a paper plate in your cupboard, go check it out and look at this, because you'll see this makes it really easy. If you can see this, I don't know, let's see if we can capture this on the camera. Do you see this line right here? This is a full circle that goes all the way around. It's a perfect circle for our project. We don't even have to trace it. It's done there for us. All we have to do is cut on that circle. So that's what we're going to do right now. So once I get on that circle, then I will go ahead and continue to cut. All right, and there we have our circle. It's kind of a nice cardstock. Hear that noise? I bet we can make a musical instrument out of this. All right. The first thing you're going to do for this, and I'm going to go ahead and use a marker so you can see it, but you would probably use a pencil first, and then you could outline it in marker later, just in case you make a mistake. But so you can see it on the video, I'm going to go ahead and use a marker. And now right in the middle, I'm going to do a wavy line. You see that wavy line? And then I'm going to copy that wavy line, and I'm going to duplicate it, going exactly the same way, mirroring the first line. And I'm going to make a third line. And I'm going to make one more. Now, if you look at that, how many lines did I make? I made 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines. But now, if you look at the negative space, or the part that I'm going to color in later, I actually made 1, 2, 3 flowing lines. I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better in a few minutes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and split this circle up into some pieces. So I'm going to do one line there, and I'm going to do another flowing line going out here. Okay, and then I'm going to have one going over here. We're just segmenting the line a little bit, or excuse me, the circle with lines. Something like that. Now we could split it up again. What if we did a line going across here like that? And what if we did one going over here? And maybe one over here. And maybe one more over here. Okay, so here's our circle with our segmented lines. And now our job is to create some patterns using lines that are going to go into each section. We're going to leave the 3 lines in the middle blank. We're not going to touch that one because we're going to add color to that later. But we're just going to, on all these sections, we're going to add some lines. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some diagonal lines here all the way across. Now I'm using a thin marker. You may only have one size marker, and if you want to create a thin line, don't press so hard on your marker, especially if you have a thicker one, and it will draw a little thinner line for you. Okay, and I kind of like that. I'm going to leave that the way it is, and then I'm going to go ahead and get my other size marker here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in some lines using dots. Now I'm drawing dots, but I'm creating lines. Do you see the lines? Do you see the line going that way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are lines. They're just lines made up of dots. Call that an interrupted line. Okay, so there's that. How about we draw some? You can see my line's a little thicker. When we make different thickness, our line's different thickness, that's called varying the line thickness. We change it up, and we like to do different thickness of line because it makes it a little more interesting. Let me see if you can tell what this pattern is. I bet you've seen it before. Can you see what that is? What do you think it is? Looks like a brick wall, doesn't it? That's right. So we have lines that create what looks like a brick wall, and that's what bricks are. When a mason lays down the bricks for a wall, he creates a pattern. This is a brick pattern. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead. Let's try that zigzag. Do you see how each segment, each one of these segments, I'm choosing a new pattern? So each one of these segments, I'm picking a new pattern to create. Now with this pattern, I'm going to go ahead and fill in. I'm going to fill in this area, this zigzag area with black. When I put down color, do you see how I'm using my marker? I'm using a stroke like this, kind of like a lawnmower, and then I go back and just kind of clean up any little white dots and cover those up so it's nice and complete. So here's another one. On this section, I think I'm going to do a spiral. When it hits the side, I'm going to stop. So there's a spiral right there. All right, I'm going to change back to my thinner marker, and let's go ahead and how about a wave pattern, like water. Notice how when I hit this area, I stopped. I lifted my pen and I went over to the next part, and I finished the pattern over there. So this is a wave pattern there. All right, and how about some crisscross or cross hatching? Start off with our lines just like we did on this side. When I want to draw straight lines, I keep my wrist here real straight. I don't bend it. I don't try to go like this. I keep it real straight, and I make sure my paper's held down well, and then I just pull. I try not to draw up. I don't draw up. I have more control if I pull down. So if I go here and I just pull straight down, I can get a pretty straight line. Now I'm going to turn my paper here, and I'm going to go ahead and start in the middle. I'm going to draw a line straight down here, okay? And then I'm going to keep going the other direction. What does that look like to you? Have you seen something like this? What about like the screen? Do you ever have screens in your window to keep the flies out? It could be something like that, although it's probably a little smaller than this. Maybe a tennis racket, maybe a fly swatter. I can think of a few different things that this might resemble. Okay, so let's keep going here. How about what if we did some interrupted dash marks? Looks like we have one last spot right here. Let me think. What would be a good line to create with this? Oh, I know. Let's do some of those scribbly lines, those scumble lines we talked about. I can go over and overlap it again. If I want it darker, I just keep going, and the value will get darker if I keep drawing the lines over and over again. All right, so we have a lot of different patterns. Now, I like the patterns that I have, but I'm seeing something, I feel like I need to have some more contrast. Now, what contrast is you have light and you have dark in this area. So to have a contrast with light and dark, we need some areas that are pure white, like we have with these bricks. And we need some areas that are pure black, like we have with the zigzag pattern. But I think we need more of it. So I'm going to go ahead and vary the thickness of some of these lines that segment the objects. I'm going to make some a little bit thicker so we can see where they start and where they finish. Ooh, it looks like we left a section. What should we put there? What if we did little X's? An X is just two lines that cross each other, right? That forms the next. And a line that turns into something or runs into another line can create a shape. Okay, a shape is our lines that create. So a circle, if I created a circle like this, if I start here, it's just a curved line. It starts off with a curved line and it keeps curving until it runs into itself. That's a circle. All right, so what else? One thing you could do is you could darken the whole outside of this circle to give you a nice border around the outside. So here is, now you'll notice it's not perfect. My circle's not perfectly circular. And I can go and kind of fix some of this with this outline. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. All right, so let's go on to our next step. Now we're going to pick 3 different colors. You can pick the ones you want. I picked yellow, green, and blue. I'm going to start with my yellow, and I'm going to go ahead on these stripes, on these wavy lines, I'm going to go ahead and color this in. Now if you didn't have markers, you could use crayon for this, or color pencil. Notice how I'm not scribbling like this, guys. Notice how I'm going in even strokes and I'm going the same direction. I'm following the direction of the line. See this original line? I'm following it. And so I'm getting the edge right here nice and carefully. And then I just kind of continue to lay color down in an even stroke, trying to cover all the white in that section. And so what this does, it just kind of gives it a little bit of emphasis. It's a little bit of color emphasis to our project. Its color's not everywhere. It's just in a certain spot. So look at that. Look what we have here. Now, by the way, good thing to remember, when you have a marker, please make sure you hear that cap click on the end. You want to make sure your markers aren't like this and you leave a little gap there. Because if you leave that gap, what's going to happen? Your marker is going to dry out. So make sure you hear the click, make sure it's all nice and tight so it's good to go when you need it next. All right, so let's bring in our other ones that we did earlier, and you can see how this might look if we had these all displayed together. You notice how they're similar, right? They look like they're from the same family, but they're different. The designs are a little bit different. They're in different locations. The patterns are a little bit different, so they look great together. As an option, if you do not have markers and you'd like to still do this project, you can create this with pencil, and although it doesn't stand out quite as much, you can still get some nice patterns and designs on here. And then in the middle here, instead of using color, I've just used different shades of gray with my pencil, and it's a good practice to be able to real light shade with your pencil and then add a little bit darker value, and then press a little harder for a darker value, and then you have 3 tones, 3 values of gray there in the middle. So it works out pretty nicely. If you have any questions or you'd like to share some of your artwork with me, feel free to send me an email. Keep drawing, and we'll see you soon.